Good evening, everyone. Today is December 15th, and welcome back to Veterans Voices, a monthly talk show focusing on veterans issues. I'm your host, Nathan Johnson, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Kevin Graves.
Tonight's show is called Reboot, From Service Member to Student. This is our Education for Veterans show. Tonight's guests are college students and program leaders that will share information about being a student, veteran, and what VA benefits help veterans pay for their education.
We're airing live on Contra Costa television tonight. Non-cable subscribers can watch live on our website at contracostatv.org/Veterans Voices. contracostatv.org/Veterans Voices. We will be taking your calls, emails, and live chats anytime during the show. Please call in, leave your comments, questions, engage in tonight's show. It's a very special show tonight. Our phone number is 925-313-1170. Our email appears on the bottom of your screen. To live chat a question, go to our website, and on the top left of the page, you will find the live chat link. We'd like to ask our viewers to call in and share their education experiences. When you left the military, did you go to school or into a vocational training program? If so, how long after you left the military did you begin this program? And what was your experience like? Those are questions for you tonight. We look forward to your answers when you call in. We'd like to start the program tonight with a couple of videos from the VA outlining education benefits and how to apply.
Did you know with VA education benefits, veterans like you can be educated or trained for just about any career you can imagine? Did you know these benefits are not just for a college degree? Become a chef, cosmetologist, first responder, hotel manager, or mechanic, or train in another vocation. Did you know if you're heading to college, VA's Yellow Ribbon program could open up educational opportunities at higher cost private universities? The end of military service marks the start of something new. VA encourages all veterans to explore available benefits that can help you learn and achieve more in life after service. If you served after September 10, 2001 and otherwise qualify, the post-9/11 GI Bill may cover tuition and fees, training, plus provide you with a housing allowance and money for books and supplies. With these benefits, possibilities abound. Earn a bachelor's, graduate, or law degree. Receive technical training in business, computer science, or another profession. Train on the job, get licensed, and do so much more. After release from active duty, you have up to 15 years to use the post-9/11 GI Bill. The Montgomery GI Bill and other programs to educate and train veterans from previous service eras may also be available. Realize your potential. Invest in your future. Explore VA education and training benefits today.
Did you know VA's new GI Bill comparison tool can help veterans, service members, dependents, and survivors calculate their post-9/11 GI Bill benefits at schools and programs across the country? It's pretty easy to navigate. Let me show you how it's done. First, go to the comparison tool website. From there, it takes 3 easy steps to get the information you need. Enter your eligibility information and the name of the school you want to compare. The tool does the rest. Now you can see the amount of benefits you'll receive from a particular school and information on the student veteran population, graduation rates, and even loan default rates. When you're done with one school, all you need to do is enter another school name to compare them. It's never been easier to calculate your GI Bill benefits by school, so please check out the comparison tool and get the information you need before you go back to school.
You can find more information on VA benefits on our website or at the end of our show during the resources segment. We are now joined by 2 veterans who are attending local colleges, Jen Sonamaker and Stephen Freitas. Welcome, Jen and Steve. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Jen, you're a student here locally. What college do you go to?
I go to Carrington College in Pleasant Hill.
Okay, and Stephen, how about yourself?
I go to Diablo Valley College in Pleasant Hill.
Great. And so tell us a little bit about yourselves, where you grew up, and a little about your service. And you're both local. You're from Pittsburgh and Walnut Creek, I believe. So
Yes.
it's kind of nice to have some local guests. We've had a lot of people from outside the county here. So Jen, start with yourself.
I'm originally from Florida. I grew up in the Cocoa Beach, Melbourne area.
What branch of the service were you in?
I was in the Air Force for 8 years.
Wow, 8 years. 2 enlistments. It must have been a really good time then. Where'd you spend those 8 years?
I spent about 4 in Little Rock, Arkansas, and then 3.5 in Okinawa, Japan.
Great. Well, and you're fresh out of the Air Force, right? When did
Yes.
you get out?
I got out mid-August of this year.
Wow.
And what brought you to California then? Because you're from Florida and you spent a lot of your time in Arkansas and Japan. What brought you to California?
Well, the scenery, I mean, I always heard it was beautiful, so I wanted to check it out. And it is pretty gorgeous out here. I just, wanted to not quite go back home yet and still explore.
It's
I
very
guess.
beautiful here. Yeah. I mean, we get rain. Florida doesn't get too much rain, I would imagine.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah. So, and
It rains
Stephen.
all the time. It rains all the time.
Well, Stephen, how about yourself?
Walnut Creek, born and raised, so quite a local here. People know my name. And Marine Corps, was in it for 4 years, got out in 2013. I was in North Carolina for 4 years at Camp Lejeune.
I'm sorry.
It happens. It was green scenery, so I couldn't complain. Didn't like the town much.
So you both have really spent a lot of time on the East Coast then, and did you come back because you wanted to come to California's colleges, or did you just want to come back home and then just go to the local college, or was there anything about the California school system or the Carrington College universities that really attracted you to go to school there?
Well, to be honest, I really wanted to be familiar, have a familiar area, because getting out of the Marine Corps, you don't know exactly what you're going to do.
Yeah.
You've been getting told what to do your whole 4 years or 8 years, whatever you do, and it really was my choice. I was like, I want to go back to California, and it was familiar for me, and that really was a great help in my transition because I knew people here, I had friends here, and I had family here that made it a great support system.
And in contrast to that, Jen, talk about the challenges that you've come up against, being that your family is still on the East Coast.
Yeah, it's at times it's hard because you don't have a support system. You kind of have to try to put yourself out there to find one, because you go from the military that it's just like a natural support system, and your family, especially overseas, and you come back and it's just it's hard not knowing anyone, and then also with the coming from overseas, it's kind of like a reverse
Kind of a culture shock.
culture shock.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, especially you were over there for a long time, 3.5
Yes.
years. That's typical. That's a pretty long deployment by today's standards. So you got acclimated to.
Yeah, I really liked it
Sushi.
out there. Yeah.
Now, your program at Carrington College is very interesting, and we really wanted to highlight this tonight because our understanding of Carrington College is that they're a vocational school. They provide kind of the traditional track for students to earn, say, an associate's degree, but they also provide like a specialized training program. And so what choice have you made? Are you in a vocational field, or are you in a traditional academic field or program at Carrington?
It's vocational. So I'm in the massage therapy program. So to my understanding, most of their programs are all like fast track programs to, be in the field that you want to be in. And so you're just learning everything it is to know in and around that field.
It's interesting how similar that is to the military, right?
Yes, it
Because
is.
you go into the military and they're going to train you on one specific job, and they're really going to fast track you. And so your job in the military, you were involved in
avionics, communication, navigation, and mission systems.
That makes
on
sense for the Air Force.
Aircraft, yeah.
Right. And so how did the Air Force kind of specialize you into that field and train you just on particular Were you repairing avionics, or were you installing them, or?
Yes, we repair, so removing, replacing broken parts, and you try to do preventative maintenance of something that you think is going bad. You test it and figure out if you need to replace it. They specialize me on heavy avionics, because there's also avionics for fighters, which is completely different.
Okay.
So in heavy aircraft avionics, they actually divide it into 3 different avionics sections, because there's so much equipment. And so I specialize in the radios and the radar, and special mission systems for whichever particular heavy aircraft I was assigned to.
So when you left the Air Force with all that specialized training, right? I mean, a lot of that's hands-on, and,
Yes.
and you're doing hands-on work with the massage therapy program. But when you left the Air Force with that 8 years of training and experience, did you think about carrying that into the civilian world, or was it a immediate decision for you to reboot into a different field as a civilian?
No, I've thought about it. Like, parts of it still interest me very much. But I wasn't 100% happy with my job in the military, so I figured I'd try something else out that I was also interested in. So massage therapy, I'm interested in different kind of like body mechanics, athletes and stuff. So it drew me in that way.
We have a question here. I don't mean to look away from you, but we have a chat question. And our audience wants to know, does the GI Bill cover any expenses for tutoring? So, Stephen, we'll start with you. You're at school at Diablo Valley College, and you're in the communications program there. Are you doing any tutoring? Is the GI Bill paying for any tutoring classes for you?
At this moment, I am not taking any tutoring. I haven't really hit that part of the section where I would go, oh, I really need the tutoring. When it comes to the tutoring, the GI Bill, when I checked for the post 9/11, I did not see anything in the specifics that covered tutoring, but at the same time, don't quote me on that, but that's what I...
Well, I think the main benefits for the post 9/11 GI Bill, which we'll get into that in a little bit, but since the question was in regards to what the GI Bill pays for, GI Bill is very generous today for veterans who are leaving the military. Right. Can you guys quickly describe for us, either at a vocational school or at a community college, what does the GI Bill pay for at your school, Jen?
For me, they pay for tuition, and they also give you a book stipend. So they help you pay for your books because the GI Bill doesn't cover that. And then they also, if you're going to school full-time, they pay for housing. They give you a housing allowance, which is nice.
And is it the same thing, Steve?
It's the same with the whole it's BAH and the book stipend. The full-time is considered 12 units, so you have to go to school and take 12 units. If you don't, they take a certain percentage off for every unit you don't have underneath 12 units. And
how easy or how hard is that to do? To leave the military where you're doing deployments or you're just working, it's not a typical 40-hour week in the military, but you're working really hard in the military. How hard is it, or how easy is it to leave the military and take 12 units?
I would definitely say it can be hard, especially if you work at the same time. Currently right now I'm taking 17, and it's been a really big struggle, but I've had a great support system. Like I said previously, parents have been there, my friends have been there, my boss at work has been there, and my school has been there, and it's really been helping me out. But at the same time, would I say take 17 units? No, I'd say take 12. It's basically about 4 classes, and if you're working, I'd cut back a little bit on work, because that's going to help you out, and just seek out any opportunity you can get to get help.
What about for you, Jen? Was it easy to take a course load at Carrington? I mean, your program is maybe a little different. Maybe it's not as traditional in terms of the classwork time, but you're still putting in some long hours, I would imagine. Has that been easy for you or hard?
It's been pretty okay, I guess. Lots of homework, which is different because you know, you don't really have homework when you're working. But
in the military, right?
Yeah. But I mean, I guess it's still you're studying and reading up on what you want to do, and I mean, in the military, you're still reading and making sure you are, you know, up to date on your systems and stuff. So, and the body is a different system, so I guess it's similar.
In the Air Force for you, it's a lot of manual reading, making sure you're up to date on the equipment and that type of thing. So that might correlate across to the type of studying that you're doing. In the vocational school system, are you taking 12 units, or is it a unit based? It's not as unit based, is it, in the vocational side of things?
No, I think it's what the school considers full time.
Okay.
And I think it differs from course to course, because some courses you'll be at the school for like, you know, 4 or 5 hours, and another one you'll be there for, you know, 3. But then you go a different number of days a week. So it depends on the program.
So I want to remind everyone tonight that our topic is Reboot, from service member to student veteran. And tonight we really want to hear from our audience. We've asked our audience a series of 3 questions. When you left the military, and we're not talking about just having left the military a year or 2 ago, we're talking to our Vietnam veterans, or even our World War II veterans, who really set precedents for the benefits that we get to use today with the GI Bill, or anyone who served during peacetime, Desert Storm, Korea as well. What was it like, or first of all, did you go to school or did you go to a vocational training program? And did you choose to go to that program right away? And what was it like? We've already heard from a few chat questions. A few folks already have asked some chat questions. You know, I want to mention, because I'm very proud, that I actually used the GI Bill when I left the military as well. I left the Marine Corps back in 2003. And the GI Bill, the education benefits and the opportunity to go to school was a big factor of why I chose to go in the military. Did you know about the GI Bill? Did you know about the pathway for college that would exist for you even before you joined?
I didn't know. No. I actually joined because I knew I wasn't ready for college or wanted to go to college at that moment.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it's a good opportunity when you're 18 years old and community college is not your thing, or a vocational school is not your thing. And so then, not wanting to join college, how did the military, if at all, how did the military shape you into choosing to go to college?
Well, I mean, they push you to go to school and further your education the whole time you're in, because you get so many, you know, college credits from going to like their tech schools and stuff. So they push you to try to, you know, have a degree before you get out, and they're just always pushing education and, you know, talking it up and stuff like that.
Great. And so we'll talk more about it in a second. We have a caller. We have Dennis from Hercules. Thanks, Bruce. Bruce is working really hard on that whiteboard over there. So Dennis from Hercules, thank you for joining us, Dennis.
Yes, how are you?
Oh, doing great. Thanks. Thank you. How are you?
Good, good. I'd like to know if you can ask your guests there, since they're going to school and using the GI Bill, post 9/11 GI Bill, can they speak on the Yellow Ribbon program? Plus, having gone through, do they understand that the GI Bill that they're looking at for one academic year that the GI Bill is paying? And if they are using the GI Bill and they get the Yellow Ribbon, do their schools, how much are they aware of this? Are the schools telling them this?
Okay, so many questions from you, Dennis. And first of all, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. It's fantastic that you're watching and that you've called in. And so let's start with the Yellow Ribbon program, and then we'll get into how much the schools are able to tell you about your GI Bill benefits and how much they help you in utilizing that benefit. So are any of you using the Yellow Ribbon program? Or so maybe I'll speak about it a little bit, and I think
we should talk about that. Public schools, being a state school, the Yellow Ribbon program doesn't come into play,
right?
Because the state benefits cover that. Mm-hmm. The private schools, can choose to be a yellow ribbon school or not. You want to explain to the audience what that means?
Yeah, well, so a private school, the tuition may be more than a public university. So the opportunity for a veteran using the GI Bill, the opportunity for the veteran to use the GI Bill at a private school is when the tuition is more than a public university, the Yellow Ribbon program will cover the gap. Right. As long as the school pays half, the GI Bill will pay the remaining half. I had someone talking to my ear there. Sorry about that.
So
the
private educational institution has an opportunity to become a yellow ribbon school to benefit veterans, to show that they care about veterans, and then they waive that fee that's over and above what the post 9/11 bill is to allow them to go to school at their university at no cost, or at their school with no cost.
Do we have another caller? I think we had someone in my ear was whispering that we have a caller, but we'll come back to it in a second. But talk a little bit about how much the schools, whether it's Carrington or DVC, or Stephen, you're talking about transferring from into another school. You're talking about going to the University of Oregon. How much are these schools sharing with you about this GI Bill benefit, or how much are you learning on your own and navigating this without any help or with help?
At DVC, I've been getting a lot of help from a lot of people, counselors, the VA counselors that are there, as well as the directors that work there. And it really helps because they let you know exactly what to do, what time period you have to get your classes verified by the VA so that you can get the GI Bill paid for your tuition. And then the VA counselors are there to make sure you keep on the track so you don't lose track of where you're going, so you're not wasting your GI Bill on a class you don't need to take, or they'll be like, oh, this class goes with your major, so you want to take that because that's going to be good for your GI Bill. So DVC has been a really good help with that.
Great, great. What's been your experience, Jen?
Pretty simple, I guess. Like, it was just kind of.
Did they have a counselor at the school that helped you work through the process, so you made sure that you were going to be able to get those benefits after you signed up?
Yeah, she helped. Like, she knew a little bit about it, and then I knew a little bit, so kind of worked. We're still learning. Like, I don't know all the ins and outs of it. Like, he sounds like he knows a lot more about it than I do. But
well, Jen and Stephen, I just want to thank you both for being on the show this evening. And it's not easy to get up on the stage and talk about it, but your experiences are very real. Your experiences in the military were very real and challenging. And as students, they're real and challenging as well. And I wish you luck, and I hope that these schools are supporting you well, and I'm proud of the VA for providing the education benefits. I want to leave it off with a comment here that we've received. It says, in 1970, veterans were not very popular in the civilian world, and Berkeley was probably at a low end of the veteran-friendly scale. But when I was discharged from the Navy in 1970, I went back to college as an undergrad at UC Berkeley, starting almost exactly 2 months after my discharge date. Academically, my experience was wonderful. Socially, not so great. This is from a veteran who served during the Vietnam era. Again, Jen and Steve, really appreciate you being on the show tonight.
Thanks for coming. It's great having you guys.
Thank you. Great to be here.
We will return a short service announcement from the Student Veterans of America.
Today, over 410,000 veterans and family members are enrolled in college under the new 9/11 GI Bill. Adding in all of our other veteran college programs brings that number to over 920,000. When troops run alone, they don't run as far or as fast. When troops run in formation, everybody keeps pace, everybody finishes. SVA can be that formation, to provide peer support, to set high academic standards for excellence, and to keep student veterans motivated and focused on the goal of graduating. The mission is clear. Cross the stage on graduation day and snag that diploma. Graduate your entire generation. Give back to this wonderful country that has invested in you, has great confidence in you, and do great things with your lives.
We're back live in the Contra Costa television studio. If you're just tuning in, this is our education special titled Reboot, From Service Member to Student. Call or email us with questions or comments. We're now joined by Jeff Stock, Student and Veterans Group member from UC Berkeley. Welcome, Jeff.
Thanks for having me.
How you doing, Jeff?
Yeah, thanks for joining us. You're from a little bit farther away. You're living out in Berkeley, I would assume, if you're going to school there.
Yeah, well, living in Berkeley.
And start us off, tell us a little bit about yourself. We're going to introduce you and talk about your role as the president of the Cal Veterans Club, but where did you begin before you even joined the military?
I grew up in Fairfield for the most part. Actually finished high school in Canada because I wanted to be a pro hockey player, which didn't really work out. I ended up moving back to California. Joined the Marine Corps in 2001 before September 11th, and then went to boot camp after. And spent 9 years in as a Russian linguist. My first bit I was stationed in North Carolina and did a tour in Iraq in 2004. Then I was stationed in Germany with an arms control agency in Darmstadt right when I got up till I got out in 2010. And I've been going to school ever since. I transferred from Solano Community College down to Berkeley. So.
Great, Jeff. I've known you for a while and knew you when you were at Solano Community College, and now you're finishing up your final year at UC Berkeley. And I just thought it was interesting that your experience in the military is a lot like Jen's, in that you spent a lot of time overseas right before you discharged out of the military. And so for you, transitioning or your reboot process was not just leaving the military and going back home stateside. For you, it was coming back to another country and really adapting to the culture again.
Yeah, that was a little tricky. I think it was harder for my kids. They were really young. I have two boys. They're 7 and 8 now, so they were 3 and 4 at the time when we moved back. That was a little tricky for them. They weren't used to kids speaking English at school yet
Right.
when we first got back. But it hasn't really been that difficult. That comment that was left from the Vietnam veteran that went to Berkeley, saying he didn't have a wonderful experience outside of the academics, I found it to be completely opposite there. Everybody's been really receptive. I haven't had any negativity as far as, me being a veteran. Usually people find out and they're curious, want to ask questions, how my service was, what I did, things like that. So.
And would you think part of that would be the fact that you guys have developed your own veterans group on campus, which you are the current president for a few more days?
Yeah, until
and
Friday.
and the awareness that helps to bring to the other students, and also the solidarity that brings among the veterans that attend there.
Well, I'd absolutely like to claim credit for that entirely, but I can't, unfortunately. No, the group is great, and that is one of our main goals, is helping veterans integrate into the larger student body and just into society in general, creating that sort of social network where we can support each other through common experience. We understand what it's like to transition out. A lot of us are combat experienced, so we can just sit around and kind of commiserate about that. And stuff like that gets us through when we don't have that kind of connection with other students at large. But now I found outside of the veteran community people that I'm oftentimes the first veteran they've ever talked to, and they're really receptive. They're always like, oh wow, I didn't realize there were actual veterans that were people when they start talking to me, and it's not so bad. But I think that answers the question, right?
Great, Jeff. Jeff, more in just a second here. We have a caller on the phone. We have Nick, and Nick is from Pittsburgh. So Nick, thanks for joining us.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, how can we help you, Nick?
Yeah, I have a quick question for Jeff, the veteran that I'm watching live right now. Being that he's using the GI Bill, and I understand that it covers a lot during his time at school, how is his willingness to survive, being that the GI Bill has changed? They don't pay for certain times being off of school, such as the break after the semester's ended, or is the veteran that's on TV right now, has he forced to get a job in the summer since if he wants to take a break? I know the GI Bill is very generous, but does he feel that, they should extend it again, or, reintroduce the extension of the GI Bill so veterans can take a break during the summer, or, get some of that money back so when they have that break for the month in between semesters?
Well, thanks for your question, Nick. So Jeff, talk about your own personal experience, but talk about the veterans group as a whole and how that individual support or that collective support has impacted veterans during these changes to the GI Bill, in which Nick alluded to that they no longer pay during the breaks in between semesters, and maybe the financial burden that may cause for some student vets.
Yeah, it's kind of two parts to that question, I suppose. The first, to answer Nick's question, It has been a little tricky. That's been one of the big challenges, is sort of filling in those gaps when I'm not actually enrolled in classes. I've taken a lot of summer classes just to stay in school so that I keep getting that rent check paid for. But with the GI Bill the way it is, like I said, I'm a single dad now, and my kids live with me, and it's been such that I can focus on my academics and have some time with them without having to work outside of that. The GI Bill's substantial enough to pay the bills to where I can do that. As far as how the group is really supported with the changes, what we more do is build the social aspects outside of the curriculum and things like that. When it comes to benefit issues, we usually have contacts, we can point people in the right direction rather than deal with those directly ourselves as a group. You know?
Great. So Nick, I think we still have you on the phone, and I'm just kind of curious, Nick, if you have gone to school yourself, if you're a veteran, and maybe what the experiences were like for you when the GI Bill has changed, maybe some of the benefits of the new GI Bill and maybe some of the difficulties as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm currently a student at DVC, and I found my experience to be a little difficult, being that, you know, the summertime I would like to take time off. I'm also a father, and I feel that being that the GI Bill doesn't cover these semesters, it doesn't cover this gap, I'm forced to either find a job for the summer, which essentially doesn't give me a break, or I have to cut corners and make sure that I have a max amount of savings during that 1 month of a gap between semesters. So I guess my understanding is, you know, yeah, the GI Bill, and they don't want to pay that money in between, but I find it very difficult for myself. And I would just want to, you know, that's why I asked the question if other veterans are feeling the same pain as I was.
Yeah, you know, I don't know the original reason for the change in the GI Bill, but my understanding of it is that veterans could better utilize the GI Bill. So rather than exhausting months of your eligibility over the summer when you're not taking classes, you could save those months for when you return back to the classroom. As a student veterans organization, Jeff, do you guys have the opportunity to bring in experts from the VA and really can give presentations or really kind of hash out these issues? Is there any kind of advocacy or informational existence within the Veterans Club at Cal?
Yeah, absolutely. We do. We have meetings every 2 weeks. At those meetings, we'll generally invite people out from a number of different organizations, Swords to Plowshares, different vet centers around that can talk about.
And veterans show up to these meetings?
Veterans show up to these meetings.
They
do.
They do. Wow. I mean, that's a challenge.
Not as many as I would like, obviously, but it's been
Sure.
It's been a lot more this past semester, and we've been sort of growing our membership, and it's been really good response on these things. One of the big reasons that we've had bigger turnout this semester is we just opened a new temporary Veterans Resource Center on campus. It's the first time that Berkeley's had anything like that, which I thought was very odd when I first got there. A school of that size and caliber didn't have a Veteran Resource Center.
Right.
So that's...
Tell us a little bit about what a Veterans Resource Center looks like or what it does.
The place we have now, again, is just temporary space. So we have a study room, and we have a Cal Veterans Group office, and then the staff, Student Veteran Services, have their offices there. And we also have an office that is filled by, a couple times a week, a psychologist comes in from the VA. Sometimes we have people from veteran centers, financial aid will come by and be just there to answer questions from us. And then also the veterans that are in the law school have put together a legal clinic at one of the rooms at the Veteran Resource Center, helping people try to do all sorts of things. But their main focus, from what I understand, is upgrading discharges, especially since the Don't Ask, Don't Tell has been repealed. Readdressing some of those issues of people that were discharged while that was still the rule. So it's really a one-stop sort of place, a starting point that people can go to, get the information that they want or need about benefits, further school opportunities, job opportunities, things like that. A place for veterans to connect with what they need, and also for people who want to connect with veterans to reach out to us. Because we had a lot of companies that are trying to hire veterans specifically for things. So that's a place that they can find us if they want to.
Great. I want to thank Nick for calling in and for the great question. I think we have got another caller in the works here. We'll come back to it in about a second or so. So Jeff, you're the role of the president at the Cal Veterans Club. You're at a very challenging university, probably taking a full course load. How how do you make time for this, and how do other veterans make time, or why is it important to you to make time on the campus for yourself as a veteran or for other veterans?
Well, I don't sleep. No, no, I'm actually, I'm not actually taking a full course load. One of the things about being a parent at Berkeley, I can take a slightly reduced course load, which saves me from taking 2 credits a semester. I can take 2 less than everybody else.
Okay.
Which is a big difference. That's a big help.
That's an allowance. That's part of the GI Bill.
No, that's part of the school that will allow me to do that. But then I do get paid.
So.
I do get paid the like Stephen was saying
Slightly
before,
reduced
subsidized
amount.
amount. It's prorated amount. And so, but it's important to me to do this because, again, looking at the caliber of the place and what it's known for, I feel that there's a lot that could be done for the veteran community there, and a lot of services that can be provided, that should be provided, that aren't.
Yeah.
So that's why I spend the time doing what I'm doing.
Community is very important. We talked about that the last show.
Absolutely.
We talked about how important community is to veterans. And we have another caller on the line. We have Pete from Lafayette. Welcome, Pete. Do we have Pete from Lafayette?
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Pete.
First of all, I'm the guy that made the nasty comment about Berkeley's reception for veterans in 1970.
Oh, we don't think it was nasty, Pete. I think we probably perceive it to be real
actually
and honest. Yeah, exactly.
To hear Jeff say that that's changed so tremendously.
Well, we're really happy that it's changed.
That's why a lot of us Vietnam veterans actually got into veteran service organizations, and Jeff also mentioned the one that I'm most involved with, which is Swords to Plowshare, so I'm glad he's aware of them.
Yeah, that's great, Pete. Can you tell us a little bit about...
One practical piece of information for the listeners may be that one of the veterans bills passed this year in California basically says that veterans can get in-state tuition rates at state schools even if they went into the service from a state other than California. I had to wrestle with that coming from New Jersey to where I had enlisted in the Navy and was discharged in Florida, so I was a non-resident in California for the first year I was here. So
yeah, another example of someone coming from another part of the United States or from even out of the country. Yeah, Pete, I want to thank you for calling in tonight. Pete, you're a very good friend of my office, and you do a lot for veterans in the local community in Pleasant Hill through your church organization. And to know that you went to Berkeley during a very difficult time, go Bears. But we have, I think as our generation who have recently gone to school or are going to school now, we really stand on the shoulders of our Vietnam veterans and the other generations before us. And the pathway that they've put forward, put down for us, or even the support. I've been to Berkeley and went to school there, and a lot of Vietnam veterans were involved in the Veterans Club. Is there any support from the local community or from Vietnam veterans supporting this Cal Student Veterans Club?
We do have, quite a few from different organizations like VFW will stop by. A couple of guys will come out to different events that we're doing.
Fantastic.
We've had Order of the Purple Heart has stopped by a few times, things like that.
Those are very important organizations.
Yeah, it's great. We even have, I don't know if you know David Gann, World War II veteran who's still alive and also a Cal alumnus who comes out regularly to our meetings and is always really supportive. And I don't remember which organization he's with now.
But you know what? How important to point that out, though, right? That even after you complete the program at Cal, you're part of a community that you can always be plugged into, and that you can support the student veterans that go to school there in the future.
Absolutely.
Right? And they'll know that you, as a veteran of that student club, contributed.
Right. And that's we kind of look at this the veteran group, at least the way it is now, as we're in the military, which is a lot like a fraternity. So we're kind of continuing the benefits of that networking and.
Jeff, I want to thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service as the president of the Cal Veterans Club.
We're now going to show you a video from the Wounded Warrior Project. They have a program called TRACK, which is the first education center in the nation specifically designed for wounded veterans returning from service.
My transition back into civilian life was pretty difficult. It was pretty distracting. I tried to go to school at OSU. I failed out. I just couldn't deal with the huge classrooms and all the distractions and everything.
I didn't apply myself. I wasn't motivated. I wasn't taking care of my issues. My PTSD continued to get worse. And I found Wounded Warrior Project and heard about the track program and just went ahead and applied.
I just felt like this was a point in my life where I wasn't going anywhere, I wasn't doing anything, didn't have a career in mind to what I wanted to do afterwards, and I just wasn't happy with the situation, so I wanted to make a change. And so I went through with it, and I love it. I'm glad I did.
Welcome back to Veterans Voices. Tonight's show is called Reboot, From Service Member to Student. We're now joined by Todd Steffen from Las Positas College in Livermore. Welcome, Todd.
Hey, it's an honor to be here.
Hey, apparently I didn't get the red shirt, black tie memo, but you and Kevin did. So, Todd, I've known you for several years now. Your work at Las Positas has been very distinguished in the community.
Thanks.
Great program for veterans at Las Positas, and it's a part of the community college network in California. And you came a little ways to get to the show tonight, and we appreciate that very much. But tell us a little bit about how you started this track in helping veterans. Were you already working for the college, and someone said, "Hey, Todd, I need you to go take care of these vets," or did you join the college and join the program with the intent of taking care of vets?
So great question. At Las Positas College, I've been there for 10 years, a little over 10, and when I started in financial aid, so there wasn't really a true veterans program. It wasn't until a couple years after there's some individuals, my boss, Sylvia Rodriguez, Bob Cradaville, who's now the president at Los Modanos, a group that was at Las Positas, a small group. Like many schools, we heard Berkeley earlier, kind of did the same thing to really develop a program. So we started about 7 years ago. And if we were doing this interview 7 years ago, it probably would have taken 5 minutes. Like I said, hey, I certified benefits for like 68 vets. Now, I think we have 20 minutes or so. We'll probably fill the 20 minutes with stuff that we're doing at Las Positas, as well as some other community colleges we're working with.
So Las Positas is a community college. Mm-hmm. Veterans generally start off there for the first 2 years of school and then transfer on maybe to a vocational school like Jen was attending, or maybe to a school like Jeff was attending. So it's kind of a short enlistment for them at Las Positas. You don't have a lot of time to get to know them and engage them. But where do you start? How do you find these veterans on campus?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I mean, it's a wide range. Jen, I think, mentioned about coming to California and never being in the area. We see a lot of individuals that are coming back because their spouses, they grew up in the area, or they grew up in the area like we heard earlier. But also, community groups, and I heard that earlier, groups like Blue Star Moms and the Valley Veterans Foundation that we have down. Those groups put in a word and calling telling their sons, daughters, brothers, sisters, whatever it may be, that there's a college at Las Positas, you're thinking about going to community college. And so we're one of the colleges that has a pretty strong program that's attracting it. We just opened a full-blown vet center, as mentioned earlier, which is also, I think, making a big impact. So when our new student veterans walk through that door, they see that we're supportive. And unfortunately, it's not true at all colleges. So I'm very proud at Las Positas that we've developed the program to make that welcoming. So it's a wide range. So right now we're probably 350 to 400 vets, and a lot of it's because of our soldiers are returning home. So,
Todd, I've had the privilege of working together with you through my role with CalVet, doing some presentations before your group. They always seem like they're well engaged, have great questions. I've been to some of your resource fairs where the entire parking lot is full of resources to benefit these. Do you find that the other colleges are starting to pick up more within the community college districts, the 112 or 13 that we have in the state?
Definitely. I just returned from a veteran summit the California Community College System put on with the CSUs and UCs. And I've been going, I believe the 4th year, could be wrong, maybe the 5th, it was right in there. A lot of schools, if you ask the community college system, hardly any had vet centers, very little support. Now they're popping up all over. I talked to individuals at Diablo Valley College that's really getting their program going. So it's a wide range. I've had the opportunity to work with some schools that have had really strong programs over the years. Like Solano College was mentioned, Sac State, Berkeley, some really good programs to work with the individuals that have been running it. So a lot of that stuff is not recreating the wheel, but trying some of the stuff that's been successful at those schools. And the stuff like when individuals like yourself come out, or Nathan, way back when he was a baby, coming out from the vet center, we had an MOU. And now I see a lot of schools are doing partners with groups like VA and Palo Alto Healthcare and those types of things. So it's been a great experience.
We heard from Nick earlier, and Nick is a student veteran, and Nick brought up the fact that, you know, the GI Bill doesn't pay for break pay any longer. And so when a student veteran is in between, say, the fall and the spring semester, or maybe taking the summer off, there's no support from the GI Bill. What does your program, or what can colleges do to support veterans in a way where, because we've talked about this on previous episodes, we've talked about really that the role of the VA is not to do everything for a veteran, and the VA can't do everything for veterans. So we've really tried to highlight what is it that a program can do to meet the gaps, to really support that veteran through their academic pursuit.
Yeah, and he had a very good, valid point. It's a frustration I hear from different vets, especially when we have a 5-week break coming up for our winter break. But some of the ways that can help that, and it's not always trying to find a job, which can be a challenge, but utilizing stuff like financial aid. It's interesting how a lot of student veterans I've worked with in the past never think they can qualify for financial aid. And so that Pell Grant might help with that gap in saving, or applying for scholarships. The community groups that we work with at Las Positas, they provide a lot of great scholarships. So that also is a way, and it's managing. The schools that are starting to really have good veterans programs with a certifying official or a veterans coordinator, I believe their role should be sitting there and talking about, hey, this, you know, you might not need to use all your benefits right away, or if you can afford not to use it, or use it and figure out how you're going to manage it for your 4 or 5 years. And I know Berkeley was mentioned. One of the programs at the UC there that they do a really good job when you apply, and if you qualify for a grant, I believe it's a grant that covers the tuition, they get to keep that. And that's a way to cover some gaps too. So being resourceful, using all those. And VA work study. I know it doesn't pay a ton of money, but it's non-tax. And you know, I ran here, and our vet center is still open. Our student veterans are in there that know the program. It's a lot of training, a lot of turnover, but that's a way to make a little bit of money. And most schools will hire, you know, individuals. So it's all avenues. Unfortunately, I agree with the caller. You know, there should be something where you can, especially when it's a winter break, or, you know, there's no classes, and it makes it a challenge. But apply for everything that you can, and a good school is going to help put that out. Yeah,
it sounds like this role of a certifying official, which we haven't really explained what a certifying official is, and maybe you can say a little bit about that. I know it's an important job. It's kind of the liaison between the VA and the veteran. But it sounds like you do a lot more than just that, because the VA is not the agency providing the grants and the loans and such. Sometimes that's coming from the state of California or from private sources, and so you have to be really an expert on the whole realm of things. How are you supported as a certifying official, and what is your role as a certifying official first, but then how do you learn that job?
So I have a dual role. You know, I coordinate our veterans program, so I oversee all the other aspects of services we do at Las Positas, but I also do the certification of benefits, and that's where verifying courses, as we had the students that were in here earlier. We get to be the individuals that work with counselors to determine, yes, those classes are required, VA is going to meet. You know, there's a lot of regulations, a lot of changes. You know, I mentioned 7-8 years ago, it was a little simpler. Post 9/11, great benefit, but there's a lot of, you know, we heard from our students, there's a lot of changes, and it can be confusing with all the BAH and the books and supplies and throwing yellow ribbon. I mean, there's a lot of challenges. So the schools, and I am lucky, you know, it should be across all state community colleges, but unfortunately it's not quite there because some of them do many roles. I just do veterans benefits and work with our veterans, while other schools might be working on missions and VA, and it makes it a challenge.
Well, I want to remind everyone that tonight's topic is Reboot, from service member to student veteran, and right now our guest is Todd Steffen from Las Positas College, and we only have a couple more minutes, but I want to invite folks to call in, chat, or email. And you know, we've had the chance to learn about the role of a certifying official, of a veterans program coordinator, and so what has been your experience on your campus utilizing the resources, the programs on campus, the Student Veterans Club or the Student Veteran Coordinator on the campus, whether it's been at a private college or public college? Call in. We have the phone number on the screen. We want to hear about your experience tonight.
And I want to say that, Todd, you've been doing this as long probably as any other community college in the state has, and you're kind of a pioneer in this, and you kind of forged the way for others. And Amy up at Solano does a great job, and Manny down at Ohlone does a great job. Yep. The important thing, as we do yellow ribbon events, for those that are separating from the military, especially with our guardsmen and reservists, is to get them to understand that they need to speak to a qualified counselor when they get on campus. Mm-hmm. They have to have somebody that helps guide them to that path so they don't get caught short when there's breaks. Yep. Sometimes we get phone calls from veterans that say, I don't know what to do. All of a sudden, I don't have any money. They either didn't get told the information, mm-hmm. or when they were separating didn't hear the information, mm-hmm. That will help them get over those hurdles so they can continue with their education, and it becomes a reactive situation as opposed to a proactive situation.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, it's kind of interesting or kind of funny. When I went to the summit, I was checking in my luggage, and the guy knew that he was like, "Oh, why are you here for the Veteran Summit?" And he said, "Oh, I just met this wonderful lady. She talked about all this stuff. I need to go back to school." I'm like, "Oh, who was it?" And then he said, Amy Utt.
Of course.
So, you know, I think that's the other role when the certifying officials or individuals, coordinators, counselors that are working with our veterans should be putting that out too. Just, you know, general conversation. Oh, you should think about school or a VOC program or some other opportunities.
We'll talk more in a second. We have Bernie on the phone. Bernie from Concord, welcome tonight. Well, we got Bernie coming in a second or so, but we have Bernie coming in a second. So while we're waiting for Bernie, Todd, from what I understand, and this experience that Kevin's referring to, you've helped write a manual, or you've helped other community colleges with a rule book or a cheat book to really open up the book, and all the guidelines, all the suggestions, all the lessons learned are right there for other community colleges or other schools to establish a program like yours.
Yeah, and besides just the book, you know, there is those schools that have been mentioned. They're more than willing, including myself. If another school wants to develop a program, you know, there's no, I guess, borders between community colleges or CSUs, UCs, or whoever it may be, as long as our student vets are getting served and they're able to maximize their benefits. And hearing like the two students earlier, you know, that's what should be. It's like, oh, I got my questions answered. I know what I need to do. So,
and I think a testimony to that was, and I had the privilege of being down at the Community College Summit with Todd a couple weeks ago, is that there was over 120 representatives from colleges there, and we only have 113 community colleges. So everybody seems to be engaged with regards to our community, and that's where the preponderance of our veterans start, is at the community college level.
That's fantastic.
And so we're really pushing to engage all those campuses.
Well, you know, I was actually in California in the Marine Corps, but had plans to go to Florida and go to college there. And it was the California public universities, the community colleges, and the great programs that they offer that kept me in California. And I'm a product of the community college, MJC, CSU Stanislaus, and then UC Berkeley. And I'm very proud of this state and the way that it's supporting veterans who are student veterans who are using their GI Bill. We lost Bernie, unfortunately. We don't have Bernie's call tonight. So Bernie, we apologize, but thank you for calling in. Also, I want to mention that Ron Williams, the Veterans Program Coordinator, who was supposed to be a guest on the show this evening, and his wife had a medical emergency, so we want to let everyone know that we missed Ron Williams tonight, but we hope to have him on another show. We're thinking of you, Ron and Mindy. And Todd, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. What a fantastic way for you to talk about a great program at Las Positas College and how other campuses can support veterans as well as you have. Definitely. So thank you. On our website, you will find a list of helpful veterans resources that were discussed on tonight's show. If you don't have internet access, look for the Veterans Service Office phone number on the last screen we'll put up. For general information on VA benefits, visit exploreva.gov. You can also find information on the post-9/11 GI Bill here. The GI comparison tool that we showed you in a video about, at the top of the show, can be found at this link. For more information on Wounded Warrior Track program, go to their website. We also showed you the Student Veterans of America video, and information about the organization can be found at the website on your screen. Lastly, we would like you to direct you to the Contra Costa Veterans Service Office, which has a wealth of resources for you. Go to their site or call 925-313-1481. We have a public meeting coming up for Stand Down on the Delta. That meeting will be on January 15th, 7 p.m. at the American Legion Hall in Antioch. For more information or to get involved, call 925-222-7596. We'd like to remind our veteran viewers that it's a great time to extend that mission of service throughout the holidays. So we've put together a few local resources to get you involved. Habitat for Humanity is a great organization that builds home for people in need. Here is the contact information for the local East Bay chapter. The Volunteer Center of the East Bay is a great place to start if you aren't sure what type of volunteering to do. They have volunteer programs for individuals or families. So get out there and get involved. No need to sit around this Christmas holiday season. Get out there and get involved. Throughout the year, you can find local events on the Contra Costa County calendar. If you have an event to add, just email webmaster@contracostatv.org or call 925-313-1170. Our next Veterans Voices will be on January 19th at 7 p.m. and the show will be titled Reboot 2, Job Resources for Veterans. That's the birthday of Martin Luther King, but we will still be live here in the studio at CCTV. This will be a really informative episode, so mark your calendars and tune in for that. And we just want to remind you that this episode will be rebroadcast on CCTV Monday nights at 7 p.m., Wednesdays at 11, and Saturdays at 9 a.m. Of course, you can watch all past episodes anytime on our website, contracostatv.org/Veterans Voices. I want to thank our guests. Todd, thank you again. Thank you, Jeff, Jen, Stephen. And I want to thank our viewers tonight, everyone who called in, who watched the show, emailed, chat. It was a very engaging show. We had a lot of opportunity to really hear from our audience. I want to thank the hardworking crew at CCTV, everyone behind the cameras, on the floor here in the sound room. Everyone does a lot to put the show together every month. So thank you to the crew of CCTV. We'll be back here live again next month. Look forward to you joining us. This is Veterans Voices of Contra Costa TV. Wishing you all a good evening. Thank you for serving.